The rain hammered against my apartment window like an angry fist, and I sat there staring at the three little monsters who had just turned my living room into a war zone. My name is David Carter. I'm 33 years old, and I work as an IT consultant for mid-sized companies around Chicago. Right now, though, I felt more like a prison guard watching inmates who had just staged a successful riot. "Uncle David, can we have ice cream?" The youngest one, Tommy, asked this while standing on my coffee table, chocolate smeared across his face like war paint. His siblings, Emma and Jake, were busy using my couch cushions to build what they called a fortress of doom. My laptop, my work laptop, lay on the floor with a spiderweb crack across the screen. "No ice cream," I said, my voice flat as roadside pavement. "And get off my table." Tommy ignored me completely, jumping up and down like he was on a trampoline. The coffee table groaned under his weight. I bought that table 3 years ago when Jennifer and I first moved in together. Back when I thought we had a future that didn't involve me being an unpaid babysitter every weekend. Jennifer Brennan, my girlfriend of 2 years, had left 40 minutes ago for another night of clubbing with her friends. Before walking out the door, she'd delivered her latest ultimatum with the kind of casual cruelty that should require a license. "David, you need to step up and help with family responsibilities," she'd said, checking her makeup in the hallway mirror. "My sister Talia needs support, and these kids need a positive male role model. If you can't handle that, maybe we need to reconsider this relationship." The way she said it, like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed with her friends, made my stomach turn. Jennifer had this talent for making her demands sound reasonable while being completely unreasonable. She wanted me to watch her sister's kids every Friday and Saturday night so she could go out partying. When I pointed out that maybe Talia should find actual childcare instead of dumping her responsibilities on us, Jennifer acted like I'd suggested abandoning puppies on the highway. "They're family, David. Family comes first." Funny thing about family, Jennifer's version only seemed to apply when it was convenient for her. Emma, the middle child at 7 years old, had discovered my kitchen cabinets. I heard the crash of dishes and knew my matching plate set was now history. The sound echoed through the apartment like a gunshot, and I felt something inside me snap. I pulled out my phone and called Jennifer, straight to voicemail. Of course. "Hey babe, probably can't hear my phone over the music. Having an amazing time at Club Nexus with Riva and Simone. Don't wait up. Kiss, kiss." Club Nexus. The same place she'd been last weekend and the weekend before that. I did some quick math in my head. Jennifer spent more on cover charges and drinks in a month than I spent on groceries. But somehow, I was the irresponsible one for not wanting to babysit every weekend. Jake, the oldest at 10, wandered into the kitchen where Emma was creating her masterpiece of destruction. "Emma broke your plates," he announced, like he was delivering breaking news. "I can see that," I said, following him into what used to be my kitchen. The scene looked like a small earthquake had hit. Plates, bowls, and glasses covered the floor in a mosaic of ceramic shards and broken dreams. Emma stood in the middle of it all, tears streaming down her face, probably because she'd realized the magnitude of her mistake. "I'm sorry, Uncle David," she whispered. "I was trying to reach the cookies." The cookies were on top of the refrigerator. I'd put them there specifically to keep them away from the kids. But Emma had apparently decided to climb the cabinets like they were a jungle gym, using my dishes as stepping stones. I knelt down and started picking up the larger pieces, my mind racing. This wasn't just about broken plates or a cracked laptop screen. This was about respect, boundaries, and the slow erosion of my own life. Every weekend, I watched these kids while Jennifer lived like she was still 22 and single. Every weekend, my apartment got destroyed a little more, my patience wore a little thinner, and my resentment grew a little stronger. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. "Having the best time. Riva got us VIP treatment. You're amazing for watching the kids. Love you." 3 heart emojis and a kissy face. Like that made up for everything. I looked around my apartment. my sanctuary that had become a daycare center I never signed up for. The kids were back in the living room, and I could hear them arguing over who got to use my TV remote. Tomorrow morning, Jennifer would come home hungover and exhausted, sleep until noon, then act like I should be grateful for the opportunity to help with family responsibilities. But tonight was different. Tonight, I'd reached my limit. I finished cleaning up the kitchen, got the kids settled with a movie, and sat down to think. Really think. About Jennifer, about our relationship, about where this was all heading. The answer came to me with crystal clarity. Nowhere good. Jennifer saw me as convenient. A reliable boyfriend who would take care of her sister's kids while she lived her best life. She'd trained me to accept this arrangement through a combination of guilt trips, emotional manipulation, and the threat of relationship termination. And like an idiot, I'd gone along with it. Not anymore. I pulled out my phone and started typing a text message. Then I stopped, erased it, and started again. What I wanted to say required more than a text. It required action. By the time Jennifer came home at 2 a.m, stumbling through the door with her heels in her hand and makeup smeared across her face, I'd made my decision. The kids were asleep on the couch. I'd given up trying to maintain any semblance of order hours ago. "David," she whispered loudly, the kind of whisper that drunk people think is quiet. "You're the best boyfriend ever. Did the kids behave?" I looked at her standing there in her club dress, reeking of alcohol and other people's cologne, asking about her sister's kids like she actually cared about the answer. "We need to talk," I said. "Can it wait until tomorrow? I'm exhausted." "No, it can't wait." Something in my voice must have cut through her alcoholic haze because she suddenly looked more alert. "What's wrong?" "This," I gestured around the apartment. "All of this. I'm done being your free babysitting service." Jennifer's expression shifted from confusion to annoyance. "David, we've talked about this. Family responsibilities." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop with the family responsibilities speech. These aren't my kids, Jennifer. They're not our kids. They're your sister's kids, and your sister needs to figure out her own childcare situation." "I can't believe you're being so selfish." "Selfish?" I felt a laugh bubbling up from somewhere dark inside me. "I'm selfish? You go out partying every weekend while I watch kids that aren't mine, in my apartment, using my stuff, eating my food. And I'm selfish?" Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "If you can't handle adult responsibilities, maybe you're right. Maybe we should reconsider this relationship." There it was, the threat she always used when she wanted to win an argument. The relationship termination card, played like it was her ace in the hole. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. But this time, instead of backing down, instead of apologizing and agreeing to keep babysitting, I smiled. "You know what, Jennifer? You're absolutely right. We should reconsider this relationship. Consider it reconsidered." Her mouth fell open. "What? I'm done. We're done. You can find someone else to watch your sister's kids while you live your party girl fantasy. You can't be serious." "Serious." I winced at my own words. "Completely serious. I want you out of my apartment by the end of the week." Jennifer stared at me like I'd just spoken in ancient Greek. "You're breaking up with me? Over babysitting?" "I'm breaking up with you because you don't respect me, you don't respect my time, and you don't respect my space. The babysitting is just the symptom. The disease is that you think I exist to make your life more convenient." She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't finished. "And before you start with the guilt trips and the manipulation, save your breath. I'm not changing my mind. I'm not negotiating. I'm not discussing this further. We're done." I walked to the door and opened it. "You can sleep on the couch tonight because the kids are here, but tomorrow you start making other arrangements." Jennifer looked around the apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. David, you're making a huge mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. She stumbled toward the bedroom, muttering something about me regretting this decision. But as I locked the door and turned off the lights, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: relief. The next morning would bring consequences. Jennifer would probably call her friends, her sister, maybe even my boss, to tell them what a terrible person I was. She'd paint herself as the victim and me as the villain who abandoned her in her time of need. But for the first time in 2 years, I didn't care what Jennifer thought about me. I was free. 3 days later, I was sitting in my buddy Mike's spare bedroom, surrounded by boxes and wondering how my life had imploded so quickly. Mike Rodriguez. Wait, scratch that. Mike Sullivan had been my best friend since college, and when I called him at 6 in the morning to ask if I could crash at his place, he didn't even hesitate. "About time you grew a backbone," he'd said. "Bring your stuff over. We'll figure out the rest later." Mike worked as a freelance graphic designer, which meant he kept weird hours and had strong opinions about coffee. His apartment was smaller than mine, but felt bigger somehow, probably because it wasn't constantly under siege by miniature destroyers. I was unpacking my clothes when my phone started buzzing. Jennifer had been calling every few hours since our breakup, alternating between tearful apologies and furious accusations. I'd stopped answering after the third voicemail, where she called me emotionally unavailable and afraid of commitment. This time, though, the caller ID showed a different name: Talia Brennan, Jennifer's sister. Against my better judgment, I answered. "David, thank God you picked up. Jennifer told me what happened, and I think there's been a misunderstanding." Talia had perfected the art of sounding reasonable while being completely unreasonable. It was a family trait, apparently. "No misunderstanding," I said. "Jennifer and I broke up. I'm not watching your kids anymore." "But David, you're so good with them. They really look up to you as a father figure." Father figure. Right. The same kids who had destroyed my apartment every weekend for 6 months were suddenly looking up to me as a father figure. "Talia, I'm sure you'll find someone else to help with childcare." "It's not that easy. Single mothers don't have a lot of options, David. I thought you understood that." The guilt trip was strong with this one, but I'd built up immunity over the past few days. "I'm sorry about your situation, but it's not my problem anymore." "Fine." Her voice turned cold. "But don't expect Jennifer to take you back after this. You've shown your true colors." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, shaking my head. The Brennan family really believed they were entitled to my free labor, and my refusal to provide it made me the bad guy. Mike walked into the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. Let me guess, the ex or the sister? Sister, trying to make me feel guilty about abandoning my father figure responsibilities. "Father figure?" Mike snorted. "You dated Jennifer for 2 years. You're not even a stepfather, much less a father figure." He handed me a coffee and sat down on the edge of the bed. "So what's the plan? You going to let them guilt you back into that mess?" "Hell no." I took a sip of coffee and felt my resolve strengthen. "But I'm not going to let them paint me as the villain either." "What do you mean?" I'd been thinking about this for the past 3 days. Jennifer and her sister were probably spreading their version of events to anyone who would listen. Poor Jennifer, abandoned by her heartless boyfriend who couldn't handle family responsibilities. Poor Talia, left without childcare because David was too selfish to help. "I mean, I'm going to tell my side of the story." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Revenge?" "Justice." Same thing, different marketing. He wasn't wrong. But after 2 years of being taken advantage of, manipulated, and guilt-tripped into submission, I figured I was entitled to a little justice. I pulled out my laptop and started typing. If Jennifer wanted to play the victim, she was going to discover that victims don't usually have extensive photo and video evidence of their own bad behavior. See, Jennifer had a habit of documenting her life on social media. Every club night, every party, every expensive dinner, was carefully photographed and posted for maximum impact. She wanted the world to know she was living her best life. What she didn't realize was that her social media presence told a very different story than the one she was trying to sell about being a responsible, family-oriented woman who just needed support. I started with her Instagram account, taking screenshots of the past 6 months. Jennifer at Club Nexus every Friday and Saturday night. Jennifer at expensive restaurants during the week. Jennifer shopping for designer clothes while complaining about being broke. Jennifer on weekend trips to Milwaukee and Madison while I watched her sister's kids. The timeline was damning. Every single weekend for the past 6 months, Jennifer had been out partying while I provided free childcare. Not occasionally, not sometimes, every single weekend. But the real gold mine was her private Facebook account, which I still had access to because she'd never bothered to change her password. Jennifer wasn't just documenting her party lifestyle, she was bragging about it to her friends. David is such a sweetheart for watching the kids again tonight. I swear, having a reliable boyfriend is like having a live-in nanny. Talia and I can finally have some fun. Girls' night at Nexus. Thank God for David watching the monsters. Sometimes I think he's better with kids than their actual mother, LOL. David's making dinner for the kids while Talia and I get ready to go out. I've trained him well. Trained him well. Like I was a performing dog. The posts got worse. Screenshots of conversations where Jennifer and her friends discussed strategies for getting their boyfriends to provide free childcare. Tips for making men feel guilty about not wanting to help with family responsibilities. Jokes about how easy it was to manipulate nice guys into doing whatever they wanted. My personal favorite was a post from 3 weeks ago. David starting to complain about watching the kids every weekend. Time to have the talk about commitment and family values. Works every time. I screenshotted everything. Every post, every comment, every conversation where Jennifer revealed her true feelings about our relationship. By the time I was finished, I had enough evidence to destroy her carefully constructed victim narrative. But screenshots weren't enough. I needed something more public, more immediate. That's when I remembered the video. Last weekend, while Jennifer was getting ready to go out, she'd asked me to film her practicing what she called her club routine. It was supposed to be dancing for her Instagram stories, but what I'd captured was something very different. The video started with Jennifer in our bedroom, putting on makeup while talking to her sister on speakerphone. In the background, you could hear her kids destroying my living room. Crashes, screams, the sound of furniture being moved around. Jennifer completely ignored the chaos, focused entirely on her appearance. "I don't care if Tommy's having a meltdown," she said to Talia. "David can handle it. That's what boyfriends are for." More crashes from the living room, the sound of something expensive breaking. "Should I go check on them?" Talia asked. "Why? David's got it covered. Besides, we need to leave in 20 minutes if we want to make happy hour." The video continued with Jennifer practicing her dance moves, while her sister's kids turned my apartment into a disaster zone. At one point, you could hear me in the background trying to restore order, my voice getting increasingly frustrated as the kids ignored every attempt at discipline. Jennifer's response to my obvious stress? She turned up her music and kept dancing. The video was 12 minutes of pure evidence that Jennifer cared more about her appearance than her family's behavior, more about her social life than my sanity, and more about her fun than anyone else's well-being. I uploaded the video to a private YouTube account and started crafting my response to the Brennan family's victim narrative. Mike looked over my shoulder as I typed, "You sure about this? Once you post that stuff, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. Jennifer wants to tell everyone I abandoned her family responsibilities? Fine. Let's talk about what those responsibilities actually looked like." I created a Facebook post that would go live on my account in exactly 1 hour. Enough time for me to second-guess myself, but not enough time to lose my nerve. The post was simple and factual. Some of you may have heard that Jennifer and I broke up. You might also hear that I abandoned family responsibilities or couldn't handle commitment. I want to share my side of the story, along with some evidence that might surprise you. I attached the screenshots of Jennifer's posts about training me, using me as a live-in nanny, and manipulating me into providing free childcare. I included the video of her ignoring her sister's kids while they destroyed my apartment. And I added a timeline showing that Jennifer had gone out partying every single weekend for 6 months while I watched children that weren't mine in my apartment on my dime. The post concluded, "I don't think wanting one weekend to myself in 6 months makes me afraid of commitment. I think it makes me human. Judge for yourself." I scheduled the post and closed my laptop. Mike whistled low. "That's going to cause some waves." "Good. I'm tired of being the only one who gets wet." My phone started ringing. Jennifer again. This time, I answered. "David, we need to talk. I think I was too harsh the other night. Maybe we can work something out." "Too late, Jennifer." "What do you mean, too late?" "David, I love you. We can figure this out." I looked at my laptop, knowing that in 45 minutes, her entire social circle would see exactly what she really thought about our relationship. "Check Facebook in about an hour," I said. "Then call me back if you still want to work something out." I hung up and turned off my phone. Mike was grinning. "You really did it." "Haven't done anything yet. But in 43 minutes, I'm going to watch Jennifer's world get a little smaller." For the first time since our breakup, I felt like I was playing offense instead of defense. Jennifer had spent 2 years controlling the narrative, making me feel guilty for not wanting to sacrifice my entire social life for her convenience. Now it was my turn to tell a story, and unlike Jennifer's version, mine came with evidence. The post went live at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, and the response was immediate. Within 10 minutes, I had 15 comments, 23 likes, and 4 private messages from people who wanted to know if the screenshots were real. They were real, all right. Every single one. Mike and I sat in his living room, watching my phone blow up with notifications. It was like watching a controlled demolition, slow at first, then accelerating as the structure started to collapse. "Holy crap, David," commented Sarah Martinez, a mutual friend from college. "I had no idea Jennifer was posting stuff like this. This is really messed up." "Wait, she actually called you a live-in nanny?" This from Tom Bradley, who worked with Jennifer at the marketing firm downtown. That's cold even for her. But the real fireworks started when Jennifer's friends began weighing in. Riva Chen, her closest friend and regular clubbing partner, tried to defend her. This is taken out of context. Jennifer was just venting about stress. Everyone does that. I was ready for this. I posted a follow-up comment with additional screenshots. Conversations where Jennifer and Riva specifically discussed strategies for manipulating boyfriends into providing free childcare. Riva's own messages were included, where she bragged about getting her ex to watch her nephew every weekend for 3 months. "Context," I wrote. "Here's some more." Riva's comment disappeared 5 minutes later. Simone Walsh, another member of Jennifer's inner circle, took a different approach. "David, this is really petty. Posting private conversations and videos without permission is basically harassment." This comment got 17 angry reactions and 3 responses before I even had a chance to reply. "Harassment?" wrote Jessica Park, who used to hang out with our group before Jennifer froze her out for unknown reasons. "He's defending himself against people who were using him. How is that harassment?" My phone rang. Mike looked at the caller ID and grinned. "Talia," I answered on speaker. "David, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Talia's voice was shaking with rage. "Take that post down right now." "Which part bothers you more?" I asked. "The part where your sister admits to manipulating me, or the part where she ignores your kids while they destroy my apartment?" Those conversations were private, and yet she posted them on Facebook for her friends to see. I just expanded the audience a little. This is going to ruin her reputation. I looked at Mike, who was trying not to laugh. "Talia, I didn't ruin Jennifer's reputation. I just revealed it." You're being vindictive and cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Talia hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. Jennifer this time. Don't answer, Mike said. Let her stew for a while. He was right. Jennifer had spent 2 years training me to respond immediately to her calls, to drop whatever I was doing to address her concerns. Breaking that pattern was part of breaking free from her control. Instead, I focused on the Facebook comments, which were multiplying by the minute. The video of Jennifer ignoring her sister's kids was getting shared, and people were starting to connect dots they'd missed before. I always wondered why David looked so tired every Monday, wrote Kevin Murphy, a guy I played basketball with occasionally. Now I know why. Dude was working a second job as an unpaid babysitter. Remember Jennifer's birthday party last year? This from Amy Rodriguez, no relation to Mike, who used to date one of Jennifer's co-workers. She kept talking about how trained David was, like he was a pet. I thought she was joking, but apparently not. The comments kept coming. People sharing their own observations about Jennifer's behavior, their own experiences with her manipulation tactics, their own relief that someone had finally called her out publicly. But the most damaging comment came from an unexpected source. Finn McCarthy, a club promoter who knew Jennifer through her party scene connections. Yo, Jennifer owes me $300 from last month, Finn wrote. Said her boyfriend would cover her tab, then ghosted when I tried to collect. Girl's been running up bills all over town using other people's credit. This was news to me. Jennifer had been using my name to run up tabs at clubs. I sent Finn a private message. Can you give me more details about this? His response came back immediately. She's been telling people you're loaded and that you cover all her expenses. Used your name as a reference for VIP treatment at like 5 different places. When the bills came due, she claimed you guys broke up and she couldn't pay. I screenshotted the conversation and added it to my post. Apparently there's more to this story than I realized. My phone started buzzing with text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Club managers and bartenders who wanted to know if I was really responsible for Jennifer's unpaid tabs. A restaurant owner who said Jennifer had walked out on a $200 dinner bill, claiming I would settle it later. The picture that emerged was uglier than I'd imagined. Jennifer hadn't just been using me for free childcare, she'd been using my name and reputation to fund her entire lifestyle. When creditors came looking for payment, she'd apparently told them we'd broken up and she wasn't responsible for debts incurred during our relationship. Mike read over my shoulder as I scrolled through the messages. Jesus, David. How did you not know about any of this? Because I trusted her. I felt sick to my stomach. She always paid her own way when we went out together. I had no idea she was running up bills at other places using my name. You need to call your bank. Check your credit report. If she's been using your name for credit, there might be more damage you don't know about. He was right. I spent the next hour on the phone with my bank and credit card companies, checking for any unauthorized activity. Fortunately, Jennifer hadn't actually stolen my identity. She'd just been using my reputation as collateral for her party lifestyle. But the financial fraud was just the beginning. As my Facebook post continued to spread, more stories started emerging. Jennifer's pattern of manipulation wasn't limited to our relationship. It was her standard operating procedure. A guy named Marcus Webb, that name was on my forbidden list. A guy named Paul Stevens posted about dating Jennifer 2 years before I met her. Same exact playbook. Started with family emergencies that required me to cancel plans. Escalated to regular babysitting duties for her sister's kids. When I finally said no, she accused me of being selfish and afraid of commitment. Glad to see someone finally documented her methods. 3 other guys shared similar stories in the comments. Jennifer had a type, responsible men with steady incomes who could be guilt-tripped into providing free services. When they eventually refused to be exploited, she moved on to the next target. I was just the latest in a long line of victims. But unlike the others, I had evidence. Screenshots, videos, financial records, and a social media trail that documented every step of Jennifer's manipulation campaign. By evening, my post had been shared 47 times and had over 200 comments. Jennifer's reputation in our social circle wasn't just damaged, it was obliterated. My phone rang again. This time it was my boss, Patricia Kellerman. "David, I got a strange call today from someone claiming to be your girlfriend. She said you were having some kind of mental health crisis and might not be reliable at work." I closed my eyes. Of course, Jennifer had tried to sabotage my job. "Patricia, Jennifer and I broke up 3 days ago. She's not my girlfriend, and I'm not having a mental health crisis." "I figured as much when I saw your Facebook post. That woman sounds like a piece of work." "You saw the post?" "My daughter shared it. Apparently it's making the rounds among the 20-something crowd in Chicago. Jennifer's not having a good day." That was an understatement. By the time I turned off my phone that night, Jennifer's entire social circle was in chaos. Her friends were distancing themselves. Her sister was furious about the public exposure of her parenting failures, and her reputation as a fun-loving party girl had been replaced by a new identity: manipulative user who exploited good men for free services. Mike handed me a beer and sat down on the couch. "So what's next? You've pretty much destroyed her credibility. Mission accomplished?" I thought about that question while I sipped my beer. Was my mission accomplished? Jennifer's manipulation tactics had been exposed, her financial fraud had been revealed, and her pattern of exploiting boyfriends was now public knowledge. But something still bothered me. Jennifer had spent 2 years making me feel like I was the problem, like my reluctance to sacrifice my entire social life for her convenience was evidence of some character flaw. She'd made me doubt my own judgment, question my own values, and accept responsibility for problems I didn't create. The Facebook post had restored my reputation and exposed her behavior, but it hadn't addressed the deeper issue. Jennifer still didn't understand what she'd done wrong. In her mind, she was probably the victim of a vindictive ex-boyfriend who couldn't handle adult responsibilities. "Not quite," I told Mike. "Jennifer needs to understand that actions have consequences, real consequences, not just social media drama." "What kind of consequences?" I pulled out my laptop and started researching. If Jennifer had been using my name to run up bills around town, there might be legal implications. If she'd been lying to creditors about our relationship status, there might be fraud charges. If she'd been falsely representing herself as my girlfriend to my employer, there might be harassment issues. "The kind that involve lawyers and court dates," I said. "Jennifer wants to play games. Let's play by grown-up rules." Mike looked concerned. "David, are you sure you want to escalate this? Sometimes the best revenge is just walking away and living well." Normally I'd agree, but Jennifer tried to sabotage my job today. She crossed a line. I spent the rest of the evening documenting every instance of Jennifer's fraudulent use of my name and reputation. The club tabs, the restaurant bills, the false claims to my employer, it all added up to a pattern of behavior that went way beyond relationship drama. Jennifer had turned our breakup into a war. She just didn't realize she'd been fighting with incomplete intelligence. Tomorrow, she was going to discover that her ex-boyfriend had better lawyers than she did. The next morning brought a development I hadn't expected. Talia showed up at Mike's apartment at 7:30 a.m., looking like she hadn't slept in days. Mike answered the door in his bathrobe, took one look at Talia's tear-streaked face, and called for me. "David, you've got company." I found Talia standing in the living room, clutching a cup of coffee Mike had given her, looking around the apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. Which, in a way, she was. Talia had never visited me anywhere that wasn't my own place, where she could drop off her kids and disappear. "David, we need to talk," she said without preamble. "This has gone too far." I sat down across from her, noting the dark circles under her eyes and the way her hands shook slightly as she held her coffee cup. "What's gone too far, Talia?" "Your Facebook post, the video, the screenshots. Jennifer's getting calls from her boss, her landlord, people she owes money to. Her whole life is falling apart. Good, I said. Maybe now she'll understand how it feels. How what feels? Having your life disrupted by someone else's irresponsible behavior. Talia set down her coffee cup and leaned forward. David, I know Jennifer made mistakes. I know she took advantage of your kindness. But destroying her reputation isn't going to fix anything. It's not about fixing anything. It's about consequences. Consequences for what? Going out with friends? Having a social life? I stared at Talia, amazed by her ability to miss the point completely. Consequences for lying, manipulating and using people. Consequences for running up bills in my name. Consequences for trying to sabotage my job when I refused to be exploited anymore. She was desperate, David. Single women don't have a lot of options for childcare. And that makes fraud okay? That makes manipulation acceptable? Talia's expression hardened. You have no idea what it's like to be a single mother. You have no idea how hard it is to balance work and parenting and trying to have some kind of adult social life. You're right, I don't. But I know what it's like to be used by people who think their problems are more important than my boundaries. Those aren't just people, David, that's family. There it was again, the family card, the magical word that was supposed to make me forget about respect, boundaries, and basic human decency. Talia, I dated your sister for 2 years. That doesn't make me family. That makes me someone your sister dated for 2 years. The kids think of you as family. The kids think of me as the guy who feeds them and cleans up their messes while their mother and aunt go out partying. That's not family. That's hired help. Talia's face flushed red. So that's what you think of my children? That they're just a burden? I think your children deserve better than being dumped on unwilling babysitters every weekend so their mother can pretend she's still 22. The words hit Talia like a physical blow. She sat back in her chair, mouth open, looking genuinely shocked that someone had finally said what everyone was thinking. I'm a good mother, she whispered. Are you? Because good mothers don't abandon their kids every weekend. Good mothers don't rely on their sister's boyfriend for childcare. Good mothers take responsibility for their own children instead of guilting other people into doing it for them. Tears started flowing down Talia's cheeks. I work 60 hours a week to support those kids. I'm doing the best I can. Then do better. Find actual childcare. Set boundaries with your sister. Stop expecting other people to sacrifice their lives so you can have the social life you want. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You just don't want to do the work. Talia wiped her eyes and stood up. I came here hoping we could work something out. I thought maybe if I explained our situation, you'd understand why we needed your help. I understand perfectly. You needed my help because it was free and convenient. The moment it stopped being convenient for me, I became the bad guy. You are the bad guy, David. You abandoned children who trusted you. I removed myself from a situation where I was being exploited. There's a difference. Talia walked toward the door, then turned back. Jennifer was right about you. You're selfish and you're afraid of real commitment. If refusing to be manipulated makes me selfish, I can live with that. She left without another word, slamming the door behind her. Mike emerged from the kitchen where he'd been pretending not to listen. That went well. She's going to run straight back to Jennifer and tell her I'm a monster who hates children. Probably. You okay with that? I thought about Talia's accusations. Was I selfish for refusing to watch her kids every weekend? Was I afraid of commitment because I didn't want to sacrifice my entire social life for someone else's convenience? Yeah, I'm okay with it. Because the alternative is going back to a relationship where I'm valued for my utility, not my personality. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Talia told me about your conversation. I can't believe how cruel you've become. The David I fell in love with would never hurt people like this. I showed the text to Mike. The David she fell in love with was a pushover who said yes to everything. That David is gone. Good riddance, Mike said. That David was miserable. He was right. The David who had dated Jennifer for 2 years was constantly stressed, constantly tired, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid triggering another guilt trip or ultimatum. That David had spent every weekend watching other people's children instead of living his own life. This David, the one who set boundaries and enforced consequences, felt lighter somehow. Freer. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. David Carter? Speaking. This is Detective Detective Sullivan with the Chicago PD. I understand you've filed a complaint about identity fraud. I had indeed filed a complaint the previous evening, after documenting all the instances where Jennifer had used my name to run up bills around town. The police had seemed skeptical at first, but the evidence was pretty compelling. Yes, that's correct. We've been in contact with several business owners who confirm your ex-girlfriend used your name as a credit reference without permission. That's a form of identity theft under Illinois law. We'd like you to come in and make a formal statement. I looked at Mike, who was listening intently. When would you like me to come in? This afternoon, if possible. We've also been contacted by your ex-girlfriend's attorney, who claims you're harassing her through social media. We'll need to address that as well. She got a lawyer? Apparently so. Can you be here at 2 o'clock? I'll be there. I hung up and turned to Mike. Jennifer hired a lawyer. That was fast. Must have cost her a fortune. Money she probably doesn't have, considering she's been running up bills all over town. I spent the next few hours preparing for my meeting with the police. I printed out all the screenshots from my Facebook post, gathered the messages from business owners about Jennifer's unpaid tabs, and organized the evidence of her attempts to sabotage my job. By the time I walked into the police station that afternoon, I had a folder full of documentation that painted a clear picture of Jennifer's fraudulent behavior. Detective Sullivan turned out to be a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes as I walked through the timeline of Jennifer's manipulation campaign. So your ex-girlfriend used your name to obtain credit at various establishments, then refused to pay when the bills came due? She asked. Correct. And when I broke up with her, she told creditors that I was responsible for debts she incurred without my knowledge or permission. That's textbook identity fraud. What about the harassment allegations? I showed her my Facebook post. She claims this constitutes harassment. I claim it constitutes self-defense. Detective Sullivan read through the post and the attached screenshots. These are conversations your ex-girlfriend posted on her own social media accounts? Yes. Everything I shared was already public, or was made public by her. And the video? She asked me to film it. I didn't secretly record her. Detective Sullivan closed the folder. Mr. Carter, I don't see any harassment here. Your ex-girlfriend posted information publicly. You shared it in response to false accusations about your character. That's not harassment. That's defending your reputation. What about the identity fraud? That's a different story. We have multiple witnesses confirming she used your name without permission to obtain credit. That's a felony under Illinois law. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Jennifer's lawyer might have convinced her that she could intimidate me into backing down, but the law was pretty clear about identity theft. What happens next? We'll be issuing a warrant for your ex-girlfriend's arrest. She'll have the opportunity to turn herself in voluntarily, but either way, she'll be facing charges. I walked out of the police station feeling like justice was finally being served. Jennifer had spent 2 years manipulating and exploiting me, then tried to destroy my reputation when I refused to be used anymore. Now she was going to face real consequences for her actions. My phone was buzzing with notifications when I got back to Mike's apartment. Jennifer's lawyer had apparently advised her to take down all her social media accounts, but not before people had screenshotted her most damaging posts. The evidence of her manipulation tactics was spreading beyond our immediate social circle, picked up by relationship advice forums and women's groups discussing toxic behavior patterns. Jennifer had become a cautionary tale about what happens when manipulation tactics are exposed to public scrutiny. But the real satisfaction came from a text message I received that evening, from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi David, this is Paul Stevens. I commented on your Facebook post about dating Jennifer a few years ago. I just wanted to thank you for speaking up. I thought I was going crazy when I was with her. Like maybe I really was selfish for not wanting to babysit every weekend. Seeing your evidence helped me realize I wasn't the problem. She was. Thanks for having the courage to tell the truth." That message was worth more than all the likes and shares combined. Jennifer's manipulation tactics had left a trail of damaged men who thought they were the problem, who internalized her guilt trips and ultimatums as evidence of their own inadequacy. By exposing her behavior, I hadn't just defended my own reputation, I'd validated the experiences of everyone she'd manipulated before me. Jennifer wanted to paint me as the villain in her story, but sometimes the villain in someone else's story is the hero in everyone else's. 2 weeks after my Facebook post went viral, I thought the drama was over. Jennifer had been arrested on identity fraud charges, Talia had found alternative childcare arrangements, and my social circle had largely moved on to other gossip. I was settling into my new life at Mike's place, focusing on work, and slowly rebuilding my sense of normalcy. Then Jennifer got out on bail. The first sign of trouble came on a Friday evening when Mike and I were grabbing dinner at Murphy's Pub, our usual spot for end-of-week drinks. We were sitting at our regular table, discussing my plans to find my own apartment, when I noticed a familiar figure across the restaurant. Riva Chen, Jennifer's former best friend, was sitting alone at the bar, nursing a martini and staring directly at me. When our eyes met, she raised her glass in a mock toast and smiled in a way that made my skin crawl. "Mike," I said quietly, "don't look now, but Riva's here." Mike glanced over casually. "So? She's allowed to drink in public. She's been staring at me for the past 10 minutes. Maybe she feels bad about the whole Jennifer situation. Maybe she wants to apologize." I doubted that. Riva had been Jennifer's closest ally in the manipulation campaign, offering advice on guilt trip strategies and celebrating each successful exploitation of my good nature. If anything, she probably blamed me for Jennifer's current legal troubles. My suspicions were confirmed when Riva stood up and walked over to our table. "David," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "How nice to see you. Mind if I sit down?" "Actually, we do mind," Mike said before I could answer. "We're having a private conversation." Riva ignored him and pulled out a chair. "I think you'll want to hear what I have to say." She sat down and placed her phone on the table, screen facing up. "Jennifer asked me to give you a message. I'm not interested in anything Jennifer has to say." "Oh, but you should be. See, Jennifer's been doing some research since her arrest. She's discovered some interesting things about your little revenge campaign." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of things?" Riva smiled and tapped her phone screen. "Well, for starters, she knows you've been accessing her Facebook account without permission. That's a federal crime, David. Computer fraud and abuse." My mouth went dry. She was right. I had used Jennifer's Facebook password to screenshot her private conversations. At the time, it felt justified, because she'd never changed the password, and the conversations were relevant to defending my reputation. But legally, it was probably unauthorized access to a computer system. "Second," Riva continued, "she has evidence that you manipulated evidence before posting it online, selectively editing conversations to make her look worse than she actually was." That's not true, isn't it? Because Jennifer has the full conversation threads, and they tell a very different story than your carefully curated screenshots. I tried to remember exactly what I'd posted. Had I edited anything? Had I taken conversations out of context to make Jennifer look worse? The honest answer was that I might have. When you're angry and looking for evidence to support your position, it's easy to focus on the most damaging parts while ignoring mitigating context. And third, Riva said, leaning forward, she knows about your little police report. Filing false charges is also a crime, David, especially when you're doing it to retaliate against an ex-girlfriend who dumped you. She didn't dump me. I broke up with her. That's not how Jennifer remembers it, and it's not what she told the police when she gave her statement yesterday. My heart was pounding now. Jennifer had given a statement to the police? What had she told them? Here's the thing, David, Riva said, picking up her phone. Jennifer doesn't want to destroy your life. She just wants you to stop trying to destroy hers. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm defending myself. By posting private conversations online, by filing false police reports, by encouraging other men to harass her with their own sob stories. I hadn't encouraged anyone to contact Jennifer, but I could see how my Facebook post might have inspired her ex-boyfriends to reach out with their own experiences. From Jennifer's perspective, I'd probably unleashed a campaign of harassment against her. What does Jennifer want? Mike asked, speaking for the first time since Riva sat down. She wants David to retract his Facebook post, drop the charges against her, and issue a public apology for his harassment campaign. And if I don't? Riva's smile widened. Then she'll be forced to defend herself. Computer fraud charges, filing false police reports, harassment, defamation. Jennifer's lawyer thinks there's enough evidence to put you in prison for 2 to 5 years. She stood up and smoothed down her skirt. You have until Monday to decide. Jennifer's being very generous, considering what you've put her through. Riva walked back to the bar, leaving Mike and me sitting in stunned silence. She's bluffing, Mike said finally. She has to be bluffing. I don't know. The computer access thing is real. I did use Jennifer's password without permission, and if she has the full conversation threads, maybe I did take things out of context. David, you were defending yourself against someone who was manipulating and exploiting you. That's not harassment. But what if the law doesn't see it that way? What if Jennifer's lawyer is right and I crossed some legal line I didn't know about? I spent the weekend researching computer fraud laws and defamation statutes, trying to figure out whether Jennifer's threats had any legal basis. The more I read, the more worried I became. Unauthorized access to someone's social media account was indeed a federal crime, even if you'd previously been given the password. Posting private conversations online could constitute harassment or defamation, especially if they were edited or taken out of context. And filing false police reports was definitely illegal if that's what I'd done. By Sunday night, I was seriously considering Jennifer's offer. Maybe it would be better to retract my post, drop the charges, and move on with my life. The alternative, facing federal computer fraud charges, was too terrifying to contemplate. But then I got a phone call that changed everything. David? This is Detective Sullivan. We need to talk. About what? About your ex-girlfriend's statement. Can you come in tomorrow morning? Am I under arrest? Not yet, but we need to clear up some discrepancies in the evidence. I hung up the phone and turned to Mike. Jennifer's lawyer wasn't bluffing. Monday morning, I sat across from Detective Sullivan in the same interview room where I'd filed my complaint against Jennifer 2 weeks earlier. But this time, the atmosphere was very different. Mr. Carter, your ex-girlfriend has made some serious allegations about your behavior since your breakup. She claims you've been harassing her through social media, accessing her accounts without permission, and filing false police reports. Those allegations aren't true. Well, let's go through them one by one. Did you access Ms. Brennan's Facebook account using her password? I hesitated. She'd given me the password when we were dating. She never asked for it back. But you accessed her account after your breakup, without her current permission? Yes. That's computer fraud under federal law, Mr. Carter. It doesn't matter that you previously had permission. Once your relationship ended, your authorization to access her accounts ended too. My heart sank. Jennifer's lawyer had been right about that one. Now, about the police report. Ms. Brennan claims the charges against her are false, that she never used your name to obtain credit without permission. But I have evidence that Ms. Brennan claims is fabricated. She says you edited screenshots and manipulated conversations to make her appear guilty of crimes she didn't commit. Detective Sullivan opened a folder and pulled out printed screenshots that looked familiar, but different. They were the same conversations I'd posted on Facebook, but with additional context that changed their meaning completely. In the full conversation threads, Jennifer's comments about training me were clearly jokes. Her references to using me as a live-in nanny were part of a larger discussion about how grateful she was for my help with her family situation. The posts that had seemed manipulative and calculating in isolation looked like normal relationship venting when viewed in their complete context. Ms. Brennan also provided us with evidence that the business owners who claimed she used your name for credit were lying. She has receipts showing she paid her own bills and witnesses who can testify that she never claimed you were responsible for her debts. I stared at the evidence, trying to process what I was seeing. Had I gotten it wrong? Had I misunderstood Jennifer's behavior, misinterpreted her social media posts, and falsely accused her of fraud? Mr. Carter, I need to ask you directly. Did you edit or manipulate any of the evidence you provided to us? I might have taken things out of context. I was angry and I focused on the parts that supported my position. So you deliberately presented misleading evidence to support false charges against your ex-girlfriend? I thought I was telling the truth. But you weren't interested in the whole truth. You were interested in your version of the truth. Detective Sullivan closed the folder. Mr. Carter, I'm going to recommend that the district attorney drop the charges against Ms. Brennan. There's insufficient evidence to support identity fraud allegations, and there's substantial evidence that you manipulated information to support those allegations. What about me? Am I being charged? That depends on what you do next. Ms. Brennan is willing to drop her complaints against you if you retract your social media posts, issue a public apology, and agree to have no further contact with her or her family. And if I don't agree? Then you'll be facing federal computer fraud charges, state harassment charges, and possible civil lawsuits for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I walked out of the police station feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Everything I thought I knew about my relationship with Jennifer, everything I believed about her manipulation and exploitation, had been turned upside down. Maybe I really was the villain in this story. Maybe Jennifer had been right about me all along. I spent 3 days wrestling with Detective Sullivan's ultimatum, barely sleeping, barely eating, replaying every moment of my relationship with Jennifer through this new lens of doubt. Had I really been manipulated and exploited? Or had I just been a selfish boyfriend who couldn't handle normal relationship responsibilities? Mike tried to reassure me, but even he seemed uncertain now. Maybe you did take some of those screenshots out of context, he admitted, but that doesn't mean Jennifer wasn't using you. Doesn't it? What if I was just looking for reasons to justify my own selfishness? David, you watched her sister's kids every weekend for 6 months. That's not normal. But what if they really needed help? What if I was just too immature to handle adult responsibilities? I was spiraling, second-guessing every decision I'd made since the breakup. Jennifer's version of events was starting to seem more plausible than my own memories. Maybe I really was afraid of commitment. Maybe I really had abandoned family responsibilities. Maybe I really was the kind of person who would fabricate evidence to hurt an innocent woman. On Thursday morning, I was sitting in Mike's kitchen, staring at my laptop screen and the Facebook post that had started this whole mess, trying to decide whether to delete it when my phone rang. David, this is Paul Stevens. We talked online about Jennifer. Paul Stevens, the guy who'd commented on my Facebook post about dating Jennifer before me. Hi, Paul. What's up? I heard through the grapevine that Jennifer's claiming your evidence was fake. I wanted you to know that's not true. What do you mean? I mean, I have my own evidence. Screenshots, emails, text messages from when I dated her 3 years ago. The exact same manipulation tactics you documented. The exact same guilt trips about family responsibilities. The exact same pattern of exploitation. I felt a surge of hope. You kept evidence from 3 years ago? I kept everything. See, after Jennifer and I broke up, she tried to destroy my reputation the same way she's trying to destroy yours now. False accusations, manipulated evidence, claims that I was harassing her. I learned to document everything. Why didn't you speak up earlier? Because I thought I was the only one. I thought maybe I really was the problem. But when I saw your post, I realized Jennifer's been running the same con for years. Paul asked me to meet him that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. When I arrived, he was already there, sitting at a corner table with a laptop and a thick folder of printed documents. "David, I want you to see something," he said, opening the folder. "These are Jennifer's social media posts from 2019 when we were dating." He showed me screenshots that were eerily familiar. Jennifer bragging to her friends about having a reliable boyfriend who would watch her sister's kids. Jennifer discussing strategies for making men feel guilty about not wanting to help with family responsibilities. Jennifer celebrating her successful training of yet another nice guy. "This is exactly what she posted about me," I said, staring at the evidence. "Same playbook, different target. But here's the thing, Jennifer doesn't know I kept this stuff. She thinks all the evidence from our relationship is gone." Paul pulled out his laptop and opened a folder containing dozens of screenshots, emails, and text messages. "I've been documenting Jennifer's pattern of behavior for 3 years. Every guy she's dated, every manipulation tactic she's used, every time she's tried to destroy someone's reputation when they refuse to be exploited." "How many guys?" "7 that I know of, probably more. Jennifer's a serial manipulator, David. You're just the first one who fought back publicly." I stared at the evidence, feeling a mixture of vindication and rage. Jennifer hadn't just manipulated me. She'd been running the same con for years, moving from one victim to the next, perfecting her techniques with each relationship. "Paul, why are you showing me this?" "Because Jennifer made a mistake when she tried to claim your evidence was fake. She gave a statement to the police saying she'd never manipulated anyone, never used guilt trips about family responsibilities, never bragged about training boyfriends. But I have evidence that proves she's lying." Paul handed me a printed email from 2019. It was from Jennifer to one of her friends, describing in detail how she was training Paul to provide free childcare. Paul's finally starting to understand his role in this relationship. I told him that real men step up for family responsibilities and that if he can't handle watching Talia's kids occasionally, maybe he's not ready for a serious relationship. It worked like a charm. He's been babysitting every weekend for the past month. I've got him so well trained now that he actually volunteers to watch them when I want to go out. It's amazing what a little guilt can accomplish. Jennifer wrote this? Jennifer wrote this. And about 50 other emails just like it. She documented her own manipulation tactics, David. She was proud of what she was doing. I read through more of the evidence, seeing the same patterns I'd experienced with Jennifer. The gradual escalation of demands, the guilt trips about family responsibilities, the threats to end the relationship if her boyfriend didn't comply with her expectations. But most damning of all were Jennifer's own words, documenting her techniques for psychological manipulation. The key is to make them think it's their idea. Don't demand that they watch the kids. Instead, make them feel guilty for not volunteering. Don't threaten to break up directly. Instead, question their commitment to the relationship. Make them prove their love by sacrificing their own needs. Paul, this is evidence of deliberate, systematic emotional abuse. Exactly. And it proves that Jennifer's current claims about being an innocent victim are completely false. I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For 3 days I'd been questioning my own sanity, wondering if I'd imagined Jennifer's manipulation tactics or misinterpreted her behavior. but Paul's evidence confirmed everything I'd experienced and more. What do we do with this? We take it to the police. Jennifer perjured herself when she claimed she'd never manipulated anyone. This evidence proves she lied under oath. We drove to the police station together, Paul carrying his folder of evidence like it was made of gold. Detective Sullivan was initially skeptical, until she started reading through Jennifer's own emails describing her manipulation techniques. Mr. Stevens, how long have you been collecting this evidence? 3 years. Ever since Jennifer tried to destroy my reputation when I refused to be her free babysitter anymore. And you're certain these emails and screenshots are authentic? Completely certain. I can provide the original email files with full headers showing they came from Jennifer's account. Detective Sullivan spent an hour reviewing Paul's evidence, occasionally asking questions or requesting clarification. When she finished, her expression was grim. Gentlemen, it appears Ms. Brennan has been less than truthful in her statements to this department. What does that mean? I asked. It means she's facing perjury charges in addition to the original identity fraud allegations. And it means your evidence, Mr. Carter, appears to be substantially accurate. I felt a surge of vindication so strong it made me dizzy. So, I'm not being charged? Not only are you not being charged, we're reopening our investigation into Ms. Brennan's activities. Mr. Stevens, would you be willing to file a formal complaint about Ms. Brennan's harassment of you in 2019? Absolutely. As we left the police station, I felt like I could breathe freely for the first time in weeks. Jennifer's attempt to turn the tables on me had backfired spectacularly. Instead of destroying my credibility, she'd exposed herself to additional criminal charges and provided law enforcement with evidence of a years-long pattern of manipulation and abuse. Paul, I can't thank you enough for this. Don't thank me yet. Jennifer's not going to go quietly. She's going to fight these charges, and she's going to try to take both of us down with her. He was right. That evening, my phone started buzzing with calls from unknown numbers. Jennifer's friends and family trying to convince me to drop the charges, claiming I was destroying an innocent woman's life. But the most disturbing call came from Jennifer herself. David, we need to meet. Tonight. There are things you don't understand about this situation. I understand plenty, Jennifer. I understand that you've been running the same manipulation campaign for years. That's not true. Paul is lying to you. He's been stalking me for 3 years, collecting fake evidence, waiting for a chance to destroy me. The evidence isn't fake, Jennifer. Those are your own emails. Those emails were taken out of context, just like you took my Facebook posts out of context. I almost laughed. Jennifer, you literally wrote a step-by-step guide to emotional manipulation. There's no context that makes that okay. Meet me tonight, David. One conversation, face to face. If you still want to press charges after that, fine, but give me a chance to explain. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet Jennifer at Riverside Park, a public place with plenty of witnesses. Mike insisted on coming with me, parking across the street where he could see the meeting but staying far enough away to give us privacy. Jennifer was already there when I arrived, sitting on a bench near the pond, looking smaller and more fragile than I remembered. For a moment, I felt a flicker of the old sympathy that had kept me trapped in our relationship for 2 years. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down beside her. You have 10 minutes, Jennifer. David, I know you think I'm some kind of monster, but everything I did because I loved you. You have a funny way of showing love. I was trying to help you grow up, to become the kind of man who could handle real responsibilities, the kind of man I could build a future with. I stared at her, amazed by her ability to reframe emotional manipulation as a favor she was doing for me. Jennifer, you used guilt trips and ultimatums to force me into providing free childcare. That's not love, that's exploitation. I was trying to show you what family means, what commitment looks like, by threatening to break up with me if I didn't comply with your demands, by helping you understand that relationships require sacrifice. Sacrifice by me, never by you. Jennifer's mask of vulnerability slipped for just a moment, revealing the calculating coldness underneath. You were selfish, David. You cared more about your own convenience than about helping people who needed you. I cared more about my own boundaries than about enabling your sister's irresponsible parenting. Those children needed a father figure. Those children needed their mother to act like a mother instead of a party girl. Jennifer stood up abruptly, her facade of reasonableness cracking completely. You're going to regret this, David. You think you've won, but you have no idea what I'm capable of. Is that a threat? It's a promise? You want to destroy my life? Fine. But I'm taking you down with me. She walked away without another word, leaving me sitting on the bench with the uncomfortable realization that this wasn't over. Jennifer was right about one thing. I had no idea what she was capable of, but I was about to find out. The next morning, I woke up to find my car windows smashed and my tires slashed. Spray painted across the hood in red letters was a single word: liar. Jennifer had declared war. And unlike our previous battles fought with Facebook posts and police reports, this war was going to be fought in the real world, with real consequences. I called Detective Sullivan and reported the vandalism, but I knew it would be impossible to prove Jennifer was responsible. She was too smart to leave evidence, too careful to be caught on security cameras. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd escalated from psychological warfare to physical destruction of property. And that meant I could finally stop playing defense and start playing offense. Jennifer wanted to find out what I was capable of. She was about to get her answer. Jennifer wanted to find out what I was capable of. So I showed her. I moved my car to a friend's garage and parked Mike's old junker in my usual spot. Windows already cracked, paint already ruined. Then I forgot to lock it and posted a simple update. Big day tomorrow, meeting with the DA about additional evidence. I knew Riva still had a burner account watching my page. I knew Jennifer couldn't resist. At 2:14 a.m., the motion alert pinged my phone. I watched the live feed from the cheap cameras Mike and I had duct taped to his balcony rail. Jennifer stepped into frame, hoodie up, can of red spray paint in her hand. She glanced around once, then started writing across the decoy car's hood. Coward. I stepped out of the shadows and hit the flashlight. Hey, Jen! She froze, eyes wide, caught mid-stroke. Red and blue lights flared at the end of the block, sirens slicing through the night. 2 cruisers rolled up fast, doors flying open, officers shouting, "Hands where we can see them!" Jennifer turned toward me, betrayal and panic twisting across her face. "You set me up," she whispered. I smiled. "No, Jen. You just finally did it on camera."